So what happens is if you're investing in, young girls, 7 to 19, or you're investing in their mom and that has a ripple effect on her family, the tools and the resources that we're giving to these women and girls are going to prevent them later on from having to access emergency services, right? So this is not a Band-Aid solution. We're actually going in there and we're working to change those statistics for the next generation. We're creating this change by empowering and educating these women and girls. And so although it's a harder sell, we're actually solving the problem and we're not just putting a Band-Aid solution on it.
Hey everyone, welcome to Beyond Behaviour. My name is Ariela Koldorf and I am your host. I'm so happy you've joined us today and I'm so excited to have our very first guest on the podcast, Tara Filteau. Tara is a registered social services worker and the founder and executive director of Mother Daughter Empower. Before launching Mother Daughter Empower, Tara led events, community outreach, and fundraising campaigns for some of Canada's largest charitable and non-for-profit organizations. She's a visionary leader who takes pride in being a wife, mom of three, and an empowerment advocate who is dedicated to leading life filled with both passion and purpose. In 2024, Tara was awarded the prestigious Community Leadership Citation presented by the Ontario Association of Social Service Workers for her outstanding impact through her work with Mother Daughter Empower. Tara, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. I'm so honored to be here as your first guest and just so excited to chat with you today. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. I'm so excited you're here. For those of you who maybe missed my initial intro to the podcast, Tara is a dear friend of mine, a mentor, and just does incredible work. And I knew that when I started this podcast, she absolutely had to be my first guest. And she'll make more appearances because I just know I'll have her back. So,
Well, it's an
yeah,
honor.
welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. Tell us a little bit about Mother Daughter Power, how it came to be, and the work that you do.
Absolutely. So Mother Daughter Empower, we're a registered Canadian charity. And right now we're really focused on our programs and services in Ontario, but we hope to grow across Canada in the next few years. It was founded by myself and my daughter. I have 3 kids with my eldest, Sophia. She was just 7 at the time. And we were looking to attend events together. I wanted to bring her with me. And I couldn't find anything that was out there. I love going to women empowerment conferences and seminars and workshops. And I thought, I'd love to bring my daughter with me and how empowering and inspiring that would be. And fortunately, as I started to dig and do some research, I really couldn't find anything out there that I could bring her along to. So that's how Mother Daughter Empower kind of started out. We launched initially 5 years ago. Sophia, my daughter, came up with the name Mother Daughter Empower, and we launched by doing a Mother Daughter retreat. And that year we hosted our first Mother Daughter Empower conference and awards, which was sold out. And then COVID hit, of course. So during COVID, we all didn't know how long that would last. So we kept postponing. And eventually we were like, okay, we need to do something. All of these people had purchased tickets. So we pivoted and decided to host online. Mind you, back then, nobody was doing anything online yet. So this was all new. We did not know how this would go. And we thought everyone would want a refund and they wouldn't show up. But lo and behold, we ended up selling 100 more tickets across Canada and globally. And I think there was like maybe 7 or 8 people that asked for a refund. So the event was very well received digitally that year. And it really planted a seed in terms of, okay, what we're onto something. There's a need for this type of education and empowerment and connection. And through that event, we also received a lot of requests for sponsorship. So of course, COVID, hard times, and it was easier for us at that point to give out a digital ticket. There's not that much more cost involved, but as we all know, in-person events, the price to host events is quite expensive. So that planted a seed in terms of like, okay, there people need this. Not everyone can afford this type of education. So how can we create an equal playing field so that type of event and just empowerment is available to all women and girls? My background was in communications and I worked for many non-for-profit and charitable organizations throughout my career. So that planted a seed and we applied for a non-for-profit status that we received and went on to apply for a charitable status. So we're 2 years now as a registered charitable organization. Super, super proud of what we've accomplished in the last 5 years. We now continue to do our annual Mother Daughter Empower Conference and Awards. This year, coming up on March
I'm
9th, is our
so
fifth,
excited.
yes, our fifth annual Mother Daughter Empower Conference and Awards. The last hour of that event is dedicated to our Empower Girl Awards. Those are girls ages 7 19 who are making a difference in this world. So we celebrate them at the event. We also do one-on-one coaching and counseling. That's also a service that we offer now for both women and girls. And we do community workshop as well. So our services are free of charge. Our tickets for the event are just $27, which is a huge, huge improvement from before we were a charity. The tickets to attend that event was about $160. So we rely heavily on our community partners and sponsors to get involved so that we can bring that ticket price down. And we have a no questions asked policy. If anyone wants to attend the event and just simply doesn't have the funds, no questions asked. They just email us and they get added to the guest list.
Love it. And I have to say, like, I've been involved in Mother Daughter Empower. I do sit on the board of directors, so I am a little
Yes.
biased. However, I've seen you kind of go through the process of, becoming a non for profit and then becoming a charity, and you are just a force to be reckoned with. You are so dedicated and you're so great at what you do, and the workshops that you do are incredible. Been to them with my daughter, and we both love them. They're very well attended, very well received. People ask for them. I know that I have some people in my circle that have asked about the mother daughter conference and awards. And I have to say, last year's conference and awards was just like magic. It was pretty awesome to be in that room and have that energy. I can't even explain it. Just the energy, it was so positive, and to see all these younger girls and tweens and teens just feel so good about themselves. And you can tell, like, the energy that people left with was so different than the energy that they came in with. And I know that this year will be even more amazing. I know what you have lined up, and it's incredible. And I'm so excited for you, and I'm so happy to be able to be part of it. And I want to hear a little bit more about, kind of how people can access your resources and supports, your counseling, and how you as a charity kind of engage in the community.
Absolutely. So, in terms of accessing our programs and services, the best way to find out about them is through our website. I always tell everyone to get onto our newsletter. As soon as you're in our newsletter, you're part of our community. So, because we are considered, I would say, still in the infancy stage of being a charitable organization, the way that we function right now is grant by grant basis. So as soon as we receive the funding, then we're able to give those services back in the community. And so you want to be on that list because as soon as the funding's there, then we're able to advertise what's available, right? So yeah, get on our newsletter. Sign up to be on the wait list. Our community workshops, again, grant based. So as soon as we go into community, if the funds are available, we receive a grant, then we can go in there. And the workshops are free of charge. So you can sign up with your daughter, you can bring a friend. Spaces are usually limited to about 25 to 30 max. But we're really, really looking forward to growing across Ontario and across Canada. It's just in terms of getting, the funding to be able to do and to help support more women and girls. But since launching Mother Daughter Empower, we've been able to have an impact on. Right now, we have over 1,400 in our internal
Wow.
community, and we've been able
Wow.
to impact thousands of women and girls over the last couple of years. So definitely check out our website. That's www.motherdaughterempower.org. Get on that newsletter. And you can always message us as well. Say, hey, if there's a need or you're looking for a specific service, feel free to reach out, email us so that you can get on those wait lists, and we can let you know once the next set of fundings in and available to your community.
Amazing. And I'll make sure that I include all of the contact info in the notes for people to look at after as well, and your socials too. Yeah, and I have to say, I know how tirelessly you work to kind of get those grants and to really, get out there into the world, and be able to, speak to and just engage with as many people as you can. Let's get into some questions. So I
Yes.
want to know, like, how can moms build resilience and confidence in their girls? Because it's so hard these days. Girls are so, and I know that there's a quote actually that you
Yeah.
always
So
reference. Yeah.
absolutely. I'll share that quote. It's the quote that our organization is basically founded on. So while I was researching, opportunities to go out and bring my daughter to, I came across this statistic that stated that at age 7, a girl's and boys' confidence is the same. But by age 14, a girl's confidence will decrease by 30% in comparison to boys at the same age. Now, I have two girls. Funny enough, one is 7 and one is 14. A son who's right in the middle, 10. So I think, any mom that has a tweener teen, there's a pivotal year where there's like a shift, and you feel it, you see it, the hormones kick in. And it's not easy, right? And we're all living this for the first time. We've never parented. For most of us, let's say we're parenting our first teen, and it's like, whoa, what do I do here? And of course, our kids are living in a world that looks far different than the one that we grew up in, just in terms of the access to technology and social media. So there's a lot going on, and as parents we need support, and then we need to be able to support our kids. So in terms of building that confidence, the number one thing that I always say to every mom is, if you want your daughter to have confidence, you need to have confidence, because you're her biggest cheerleader, you're her biggest influencer. And so you need to, when a mother steps up and builds that confidence, it has a ripple effect on her entire family. It truly does.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can definitely see how that is. And I have to say, I mean, I obviously know your kids and you have some pretty confident kiddos and your girls are pretty incredible. And I think, you've definitely modeled that for them. Everything you do with confidence, whether you feel it or not on the inside, you definitely show it on the outside. That's beautiful. Okay, so another question as well is, what challenges do you encounter most through the work that you do?
That's a great question. I would say the biggest challenge, especially being a smaller charity, is funding, right? It's so hard when you're doing great work and you have the stats to prove that the work and the programs that we're doing are working. And we just want to go out there and be able to offer our services and our programs, and expand, but the funding needs to be there. And as a small charity, we're up against, the bigger CAMHs, the hospitals, food banks. And of course, we understand at the end of the day, families need to put food on the table and they need a roof over their head. And so when it comes to mental health, investing in their mental health, investing in personal development, investing in a coach or a counselor, that's it's not at the forefront of their needs when they're looking to put food on the table. So I think in terms of what we offer, it's a harder sell when we're up against other bigger charities, and then also charities that are like a bare necessity that you absolutely need to be eating every day. So it's a harder sell. With that said, the work that we do is none less important, because we're
Absolutely.
actually solving the issue, right? So what happens is, if you're investing in, young girls 7 to 19, or you're investing in their mom, and that has a ripple effect on her family, the tools and the resources that we're giving to these women and girls are going to prevent them later on from having to access emergency services, right? So this is not a band-aid solution. We're actually going in there and we're working to change those statistics for the next generation. We're creating this change by empowering and educating these women and girls. And so although it's a harder sell, we're actually solving the problem, and we're not just putting a band-aid solution on it.
Absolutely. And I've worked in social services and I've spent 20 years in the past 20 years in social services, and I can tell you, you're absolutely right, because it is cyclical. Um, and again, if you don't kind of get at the root of the issue, if you don't have that preventative work, then it's just going to keep going and escalating and getting worse and worse, right? So,
Yes.
um, I absolutely agree with you. Is there a way that people can get involved and can help with any funding or
Yes.
donations? Do you want
Absolutely.
to tell us more?
There's multiple
Yeah,
ways. So on our website, we have our 100 founding supporters program. So if anyone is like, I have just a small capacity that I can support, the minimum amount for that program is $25 per month. We ask you to sign up for at least 1 year. So we're really trying to create like a sustainability in terms of minimal funding for the organization. So you can sign up there, and then you'll be listed as one of our 100 founding supporters for life on our website.
amazing.
So that's one area. Again, if somebody is in a financial capacity to donate more, obviously we are able to give out a tax receipt as a charitable organization. So if you're a small business, please consider us, donating to our charity. There are businesses as well that, for bigger corporations or those that have, multiple employees, it's a very minimal amount that you can, let's say, take off. I know a lot of people do that within their business or their work, where the employees can donate a certain percentage back to an organization. Again, when you donate to Mother Mother Daughter Empower, those funds go right back into the community. And so there's many ways, like I said, you could support at our events. We have silent auctions, we have live auctions, and of course there's always our donation page and donation button on our website as well.
Perfect. Amazing. I love it. And let's just reiterate again before we start talking about the mom stuff that I also want to talk about. March 9th is the event.
It is.
Tell us where it is, when it is, what times. And again, I'll add that to the notes as well.
Awesome. So March 9th, it's in Innisfil, Ontario at the Idea Lab and Library. Tickets are on sale. You can still purchase the ticket at the door. Once we're sold out, we're sold out. So I encourage everyone to get a ticket in advance. You can do that through our website at our events page. The event runs from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. With that said, the first 25 people that line up get a swag bag. So we often see quite the lineup, at least a half an hour or so before the event. But it's an incredible day. I think you described it very well. Everyone keeps talking about the feeling, which is hard to describe, but it's a very empowering feeling. And that means that we're doing our job. We want people to leave, picked up a few nuggets, met some new people, and just leave with more confidence to go out there and dream big and live their best life.
Amazing. I am, like I said, so excited to be there. I think I was probably one of the first people that got my ticket, so I'm super duper excited. Okay, now let's talk mom stuff. We're
Yes.
moms. You're a mom. I know you're a busy mom. You have three beautiful, amazing, but busy kids. I want to know, like, what are your biggest challenge? Because people like you and I have perfection at home, which is not reality. What are some of your biggest challenges as a parent?
Biggest challenges. So, my three kids are all in different age groups. So, I think right now, one of the biggest challenges is it's very hard to find activities that all three want to participate in.
Yeah.
So, doing like family events, there's always one that doesn't want to do it. So, that's a challenge right now for us, is like they're all into different things, right? My son, he has ADHD. So, I think that is a challenge on its own, just being in the public education system. And I cannot tell you the time and energy that is dedicated to supporting him on his journey, supporting his goals, and just supporting him as a kid in the school system, the amount of time and energy that takes. So I would say that right now, especially at that pivotal age of like grade 5, it's been quite the challenge, over the last couple of years,
Yeah.
but an important one, a very important one.
For sure, and my son is the same age as your son. They're friends.
Yes.
ADHD too, learning disability. I've talked about that in my intro. Yeah, it's really hard because the education system is not cut out for these kiddos. And as much as their teachers are amazing and their educators are amazing, and they try, it's so hard, and it's so hard to advocate, and it's so hard to kind of support them at home, but also not kind of create that babying kind of feeling for them either. So yeah, it's really hard, and I know that what it takes. How do you find the dynamics of having three kids? Because I have two kids. I've always thought I was going to have more, but once I had my second, he had like night terrors. We weren't sleeping, and I thought I can't be outnumbered by these children. Like we
Yeah.
divide and conquer all day long. You
Yeah.
are outnumbered, and yeah, how is that?
I
How does
am.
that work?
I'm definitely outnumbered. There's definitely more chaos than calm. Like that's just life, right?
True.
You're constantly juggling so many balls, but obviously at the end of the day you wouldn't have it any other way, right? So yeah, for anyone that thinks that it's easy, it's not easy. I think we've heard this, just as moms, it's the most challenging job, yet the most rewarding all at the same time. And it's ebbs and flows. It's constant ebbs and flows. If you expect anything else and you think, in the next year it'll be more calmer, then no, there's always different challenges that are so
Yeah.
you gotta get ready for the ride, right?
And it's a wild ride.
It
And speaking
is.
of wild rides, we both have 14-year-old daughters who definitely keep us on our toes. How are you managing that? Like how I know that we talk all the time. You know how it is for me. Like I just bite my tongue sometimes, and she's a version of me. We're both very
Hmm.
hard-headed and stubborn. We have a great relationship, but we also butt heads. How do you manage the whole teenage era of your life?
Great question. So it's when we talk about challenges, it's never easy, and I know for both of us that our daughters are, our first kids, so we're going through this. It's all new for us as well. But one thing I would say, and every kid is so different in terms of what they're really good at, what they need to work on. Every kid is so different, right? So, what I think in general, when it comes to teenagers, first of all, they're preconditioned to just hormonal, they need their space. They don't want to be around us. We're annoying. Everything that we say is weird. They don't want to listen to, and that's okay, right? They're in that space, and they're just in terms of like their human biology at this age promotes that, right? Like
Yeah.
at the
Yep.
very basis. So it's so important for parents when you're parenting teens to not take anything personally, and it's so hard to do that. And it's so much easier said than done. But you cannot take anything that they say or do or they look personally. You can't. And you also have to just keep showing up. Even if they may look like they don't want to talk to you or they don't want to listen to you, you have to keep showing up. You have to keep giving them your advice, whether they take it or not. That's up to them, right? They're at that age where they're not going to listen to everything that we say, but we can't stop showing up. So those are the two things I would say is don't take anything that they do personally. You got to kind of brush it off. With that said, I'm not saying not to, create boundaries and discipline and consequences, of course, but we can't be taking what they do personally, and then to just yeah, keep showing up, keep caring. Even if they look like they don't care, they're acknowledging that. They will acknowledge it. And
Yeah.
I always say I give my kids advice all the time, and a lot of times they'll just walk away, or like I'm like, oh,
Roll
they
their
don't listen to,
eyes.
they're not listening, they're not. And then all of a sudden you overhear them having a conversation with someone else, and they're literally repeating the words that came out of your mouth, and you're like, they
And
are listening, right?
that's the thing, right? It's almost like they're too cool to acknowledge that we're actually saying some valid things, right? And so they have
Yes.
to kind of just and I think, like you said, that's the teenage condition, right? That's they're going through so much, their bodies are ramping rampant with hormones, boys
Hmm.
or girls. And yeah, I do the same, right? My daughter and I have a very close relationship, but there are times where it's just I have to just let it be because she's not in that space where she wants to engage, and that's okay. But I do know, like you said, that she still takes my advice and listens to what I have to say, and she does kind of process it, but in her own time. And that's true with a lot
Yes.
of kids too, right? I
Yeah.
mean, our boys too. Our
Yep.
boys too,
Absolutely.
right? My house is full of meltdowns, daily meltdowns, but you just have to kind of go with it. So, let's pivot a little bit. I want to talk about some self-care. You live in a busy household, you're in the mental health field. What do you do for self-care for your own mental health to ensure that you are able to not just show up professionally, but show up for your family every single day?
Mm. And it's such an important question. And it's
Yeah.
something that we all have to really think about. And I think because our lives are so busy that often we just like we keep going and going and going. So it's actually something that you really kind of almost need to schedule in, I would say. And even if it's a small thing every day that you do, or a bigger weekly or bigger monthly thing, and that looks different for everyone what self-care is, right? I'm somebody, I love taking baths, and some people hate taking baths. But for me, when I take a bath, nobody is bothering me. That's my time. I get to just relax and unwind. I also do practice meditation. I find that even if I do like a 5 or 10 minutes, sometimes in between meetings, if I'm like, okay, I have a half an hour, I'll take 10 minutes. And again, everyone's different. Some people like to meditate sitting up. For me, it's lying down. And I'm lucky enough that I get to work
Interesting.
from home. So sometimes I'll just go lay down, I'll put on a timer, put on like a relaxing meditation, and it just helps so much. So those are like the little things that I do for me. And again, that looks so different for each individual. Some people, again, if you work from home and you want to go take a quick walk or whatever that looks like for you. But for me, those are the things that I can personally fit into my schedule that work. And then, of course, I wouldn't say monthly, but I would say at least every couple of months I'll do. I know we've gone to the spa together or whatever that looks like, a couple of times a year, doing something just for you, like a whole day or a weekend away or whatever that looks like, to fill up your bucket, because it's so important. We can't give back if our energy is gone, right? So, and I communicate that to my kids verbally very often. If I, sometimes if I'm, if my child is, I don't like to say power struggle because we're not going to power struggle with our kids, but sometimes they like just don't accept no as an answer and they keep debating,
Yes.
debating, debating. Sometimes I'll just be like, listen, mommy's energy right now is gone. I'm happy to have this conversation with you. Come back in an hour. Right now, I need a few minutes to just like relax here because my emotional energy, like, I'm just not going to hear or engage in this dialogue because my cup is empty. Right. So to be able to communicate that to them as well, and make sure that you're taking time to regroup.
Absolutely, and I do the same thing with my kids, but that also teaches them, right? Like that teaches them that
Yes.
self-advocacy, that teaches them to communicate where they're at and their needs. Um, it's kind of like a teaching moment. It's a very natural teaching moment. And I think the kids, really need to know, I need a break,
Yeah.
right? And there's nothing wrong with saying that. Speaking of the spa, as you know, I've never done anything like that by myself. And I took a day because I've gone through, it's been a really rough year for me
Hmm.
personally. And I took a day. I went to a spa and I had a day of silence. Like it was glorious. I didn't think I would like it by myself, but I have to say, it took a lot of planning, but I took a day and I unplugged and I read and I didn't speak to anybody and I just went on a spa day by myself. And I was probably more recharged after that day than I am after a vacation. Like it was
Yeah.
amazing. It was
It does
beautiful. So,
wonders. And I think as moms so often
yeah.
like, oh, what is that going to do? It's just one day or what? But
Or
try
the
it. Try
guilt.
it and then
Yeah.
the guilt, the mom
Yeah.
guilt,
Yeah.
the mom
Yeah, but
guilt.
yeah, you do need to try it. Like it's or if you can't do the spa, and I do this a lot with my coaching clients as well, is that self-care, right? If you can't do a spa or you can't do a whole day or you can't meditate for 10 minutes, sometimes I'll just put on my jacket and literally step outside and take a breath
Yes.
of fresh air,
When my
right? It's
kids
as
were
easy
young,
as
I
that.
say younger. Yeah, sometimes and even still now occasionally, but especially when they were younger, there were days where as soon as my husband walked in, I would be like, bye. I
I'm
would go
out.
to Tim's, get a coffee, and I would just
Yep.
sit in the car for like an hour. Just that quietness and not mom, 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 because that it really does. Like our nervous system and our energy, we need to be able to give our best selves to our kids as much as we can. Nobody's perfect. We all,
Yeah.
have our days, but in order to do that, you do have to step away and recharge. It's literally like recharging a battery, same thing.
Yeah, you do, and the expectations on us, and I'm not saying dads don't have expectations, but I find that culturally as a society, the
Yes.
expectations on moms are so much greater. I speak to my husband all the time about, and he's a very hands-on dad and very hands-on partner. Like he's great, but I always say my brain is always working in terms of what needs to be done. So I have work on my brain, I have kids on my brain, but then I have like life little things that if they
Yeah.
don't get done, our
It's the
household would
mother
just be a
load.
disaster. It's the mother
Yeah,
load,
it's
and
the mother load and it
yeah,
goes it's so far often like under the radar and we don't I speak
yeah.
about it a lot, but I feel like as a society we don't speak about it enough. I feel like and even if you look at moms today and compared to the pressures and responsibility of moms just one generation ago, it's completely
Yep,
different. I mean, as kids,
yep.
we weren't in a million and one activities.
No.
When you look at, I don't know, like 50 years ago, women were at home and again, being a stay at home mom, hardest job in the world, but they didn't have then the responsibilities of having or the pressure of having to bring in an income, right? Now we have moms that are, trying to juggle, okay, we got it. Cost of living now is incredible. So we have that stress of bringing in something, most of us, and then we're raising the kids and then it's scheduling, scheduling, scheduling. And I think that for most moms, again, not everyone, but most moms, that mother load of keeping track of every email, of every appointment, of every game, of every practice. And we could all have the most incredible husbands and fathers in the world, but
Yes.
they're being like, don't forget to pick up so and so at this time.
Yep.
Don't forget to pick up the milk because we're done. They're not keeping track of any of that in their brains. And that's a heavy load to carry because it's on and on and on and it never stops.
And
It
it's
never
mentally
stops.
exhausting. It's mentally
It is.
exhausting, right?
It is.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I'll have you back on future episodes to talk about things, again, other mom things and, social media. And I really want to pick your brain about those spaces. I do want to know before we kind of end this, since you become a parent, what is something that you have learned about yourself that you didn't know before you were a parent?
Hmm, that's a really good question. It's hard to remember life before I was a parent, right? Like it's hard to remember life before. I would say that, well, one is I don't think, and I want to be mindful of those that don't have children, but I don't think that I knew how much you could love before having a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it is the true definition of unconditional love. Like, and I say this like your child could do anything, you never stop loving them. Like it's literally the pure definition of
I agree.
unconditional love. There's no mountain that you wouldn't climb, no sea that you wouldn't swim. Like when it comes to your kids at the end of the day, right? So I think ultimately, um I thought I knew that what love was before kids, and I've definitely felt love, but having kids is a whole new level of unconditional love.
Yeah. Very good answer. I have to say, when my first was born, what I felt was so profound. And I remember using that word. I remember saying it's so profound. Like it's just a whole surreal experience. So great answer. I love it. Okay, well, this is it. We're done our first episode with our
Yay.
very first guest. Yay. Thank you so much, Tara. I'm just going to remind everybody March 9th in Innisfil, Mother Daughter Empower Conference and Awards. Tickets are on sale now. All the information will be in the notes. I will also put all the links that you need to follow on the socials as well as the Mother Daughter Empower website. Tara, thank you so much. I'm so
Thank you so
happy
much for
you're
having
here
me.
and I can't wait to have you back.
I can't wait too.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone. And I hope your journey is a successful one today. And take care. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond Behavior. I hope you found it helpful and learned something along the way. If you did, please subscribe to the podcast and don't forget to share this episode with a friend who might benefit from it. Remember, parenting is a journey and we're all on it together.